Hello and welcome to Refugee Welcome Collective's Lunch and Learn series. In these sessions, we aim to bring interesting and timely information to you, supporters of refugees. Whether you are a volunteer, community sponsor, resettlement agency staff, a local advocate, or just someone who is interested in learning more, we hope you enjoy today's session, Tarjimly app demo, connecting refugees and welcomers to on-demand interpretation. Here at Refugee Welcome Collective, we collaborate with partners to provide in-depth training programs, weekly learning sessions, resources, and on-demand technical assistance for sponsors, practitioners at resettlement agencies, refugees paired with sponsors, community and institutional partners, and others to support quality community sponsorship programs across the United States. Let's see, next. As a reminder for everyone joining the Lunch and Learn today, there is a control panel in the upper right-hand corner of your screen that will allow you to submit questions through the questions box. There will be ample time at the end of the webinar for Q&A. Everyone on today's webinar is automatically muted. However, if you have any tech issues, please just raise your hand through the control panel or submit a question in the questions box so we can help you. Additionally, the presentation and a recording will be sent to everyone following today's webinar. And that brings us to today's presenter. Our presenter is Sarah Hutchison. Sarah is Chief Operating Officer at Tarjimly. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I can't see the attendees, but hello out there. It's really a pleasure meeting everybody, and I'm excited to tell you how to get access to interpretation and translation. Next, please, Grace. So today's agenda, I'll be telling you about Tarjimly, who we are, what we do, how we do it. And then I will tell you a little bit about our mobile app and how to use it and its free features. Next, I'll tell you a little bit about our premium subscription services and other services we offer if you need a little bit more than what we offer with our free services. And then I'll tell you a little bit about how to get signed up and onboarded on the app. If you want to try it out after that, if you sign up while we're on this call, then we'll all try it out. And I'll give you resources for the clients you serve so that they can get onboarded as well and have our tool in their back pocket so they can become independent and have a little bit more agency. Next. So Tarjimly is a nonprofit organization. So a 501c3, we are founded and based in California, although right now we're a global team of around 10 people based in 7 countries around the world. It's our belief that it's a human right to be heard and understood. And so what we do is we provide on-demand interpretation translation using our mobile app. Next. So our mobile app crowdsources multilinguals from around the world to volunteer as on-demand interpreters and translators. So the way the app works is you download the app, you select that you need help accessing language interpretation or translation, and you sign up. Then you select your language pairing, and when you make a request, we reach out to our thousands of volunteers, not all at once. Every 30 seconds, we reach out to a different curated pool, and we curate them based on fluency levels, based on probability with which they'll say yes, based on certain skill sets, ratings on the app, and a bunch of other factors. So we have a machine learning algorithm that's constantly taking into consideration new information to find the best match for you. On the volunteer side, they receive a request that's like, hey, somebody needs your help, are you available? The first person to say yes is connected with you in a session where you can send text messages, voice notes, photos, or get on an internet call. Again, we have over 60 languages on the app. Realistically, we have, I think, over 140 languages, but we advertise 60 as well-supported languages on the app. And our average connection time, meaning the time from which you make a request until you get connected, is under 2 minutes. So signing up on the app is pretty easy. We'll go over the details of it later, but you sign up, you select your language pairing, click request, the machine learning algorithm reaches out to new people every 30 seconds. Once they accept, you get in a session. Once you're done, you end and rate it. It's a pretty simple process, but what we try to do is pretty novel, which is connect all these humanitarians and beneficiaries around the world with tens of thousands of willing bilingual volunteers. Tarjimly Essentials is our free service. Basically, we are committed to keeping our base services 100% free and accessible to anybody who needs them. So that means humanitarians and all the displaced people they're serving. So whether it's refugees, immigrants, newcomers, asylum seekers, survivors of human trafficking, etc. So everyone on this call definitely qualifies as that group. I'd love to tell you a little bit more about Tarjimly Essentials features. So what's offered with our free service. And I will have Grace kind of play on the video so that the video can tell you, and I'll stay quiet and mute myself for them.
They're working on it. They're working on it, Sarah.
Okay, we'll give them a second.
Right.
Yep, just 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
And like you said, this one is the essentials, right? So this one is everything on here is
100% free. Everything's free. You can use it. It's unlimited. You can use it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you won't be charged a penny. It's just whatever your data charges are with your own mobile company, which we have nothing to do with. So, and I think we're about ready. Is there a way to share sound? If not, I can narrate. I'm happy to also narrate.
Let's see, Grace, can you possibly unmute?
Yep. Let me see if that helps. I can turn it up. Okay. Let me know if you can hear it.
First. It's very quiet. Usually it's a selection when you're like a sharing option if you want to share the video with the sound, but it's okay. I can also narrate. So if you rewind it, I'll just be a live narrator, which is fine
Thanks,
with me.
Sarah.
No problem. All right. So Tarjimly Essentials is the free version of our app. If you want to make a request, you just log in, you make the language selection of your choice. Is the video on pause? There you go. And then click Request Translation. We'll begin reaching out to pools of volunteers until one of the volunteers says yes. And once someone says yes, we connect you in a session. In the session, like I said before, you can send text messages. You can also send voice notes, photos, or get on an internet call. We always recommend introducing yourself to the volunteer and giving some context because they work with such varied use cases. So to make a call, you click the little phone icon in the upper right-hand corner, and that'll get you on an internet call with your interpreter. Now, if you're live with the person and you want them to hear, you click the speaker button, and then you can have a three-way conversation with the refugee newcomer you're trying to serve. Once you're done, you can click the red phone icon on the bottom to hang up. This will not end the session and take you out of the session. This will just bring you back to the main screen where you can continue to text with your interpreter. Now, you can also translate text or shorter form text messages. So let's say you want to send your client a message. You can always type the message, ask the person to translate it for you. We recommend giving the person time to translate the message for you. And then when you're done, what you can do is when they send the message back in the other language, you can press and hold and click copy, and then press and hold in the other application. Let's say you're messaging on WhatsApp or via email, and paste there. You can also use Tarjimly to have documents translated or someone to explain what a document says. So let's say you get, your client brings a paper in another language. You can take a photo of that document and then have the interpreter send you a voice note, for example, saying like, oh, the document's about XYZ. That's if you don't want it officially translated. You can also ask them to translate documents, although you have to make sure they have time for that. And usually what works best there is using like a live Google Forms link or something like that. To send the voice note, there's a little voice note icon in the lower right-hand corner. You click it, record your message, and then click send. End the session, you click those three dots in the upper right-hand corner and click end conversation. After that, you're going to rate your session, so telling us if it was great or if you had issues. This really helps us understand what happens. We do review sessions that say that they have issues. And you can always, if there are issues, you can report your interpreter if you have any major issues. And yeah, that's how to use the basic version of the app. So write down your questions. I'm sure you'll have many for the Q&A at the end of the session. But that is, you can use that as much as you want. We have Dari and Pashto readily available for this as well. We have hundreds of volunteers. And while we do have pretty good match rates, meaning the probability of finding a match for you when you make a request, I think it's maybe 70%, at least like 75% or something. I know for Dari it's even higher. For Pashto it's slightly lower with the free version of the app. So that means anybody who waits 90 seconds or more, what is the probability that they get matched? I will say we do recommend waiting at least 2 minutes to get connected. And we say that because, like I said, every 30 seconds, we're reaching out to 30 more, excuse me, I'm not sure about the exact number, but a group of more, it really depends on the language, additional group of volunteers, meaning up to 5 minutes. The longer you wait, the higher the probability that we will find a match for you. Next. Now, it's really important with the free version of our app to make an informed assessment. We do believe in the quality of our translators, and from our experience, a lot of them are even like not as confident as they should be in their skill sets. However, we also want you to consider like there are certain situations in which you need a trained professional translator, especially one that's specialized in a certain area, like medical interpretation, for example, if you're going to a very technical appointment. And for example, with court interpretation, you're legally obligated to have a court certified interpreter. Now, I will also say that we think of ourselves as a language justice organization, meaning we think that you should advocate for your clients' right at these institutions, because any large organization that receives any federal funding, whether that be Medi-Cal, Medicaid, Medicare, whatever it is, they are obligated to provide interpretation for their clients or patients. And so when you go to a hospital, make an appointment, you can advocate for that right. And at courts as well, you should advocate for that right. Next. All right, so I just wanted to tell you, so we were talking about the free features. Again, we highly recommend anybody who needs our free features to download and use the app, even refugees and immigrants themselves, and we'll be going over that a little bit later. But we also know that some organizations or some people working with families have additional needs that I didn't state in the first option. We do have a flat rate subscription version of the app called Tarjimly Premium that offers additional features. One of those features is conference call. So let's say you want to contact your client and they're at home and you're at home. What you can do is you can connect to the interpreter just like we showed in the Essentials video, but then you can add in additional numbers. So you can add in your client's phone number so that when you make a call, their phone rings, and when they answer it, it's a Tarjimly number, a US number. And when they answer, you're on the phone, the interpreter's on the phone, and they're on the phone, and you can have a three-way conversation. Let's say you're like, okay, I have those people on the line, but we need to call social services. You can also add a fourth number on the line as well. So that's one feature. Next. Another feature is filters. So you can filter for specific self-reported factors. For example, female-only interpreters if you're having a sensitive conversation. You can also filter in a way that lets the volunteers know what to expect. I should say translators, not only volunteers, and I'll tell you what this is, but the translators know what to expect. For example, document, letting them know you want the document translated. or interpretation, letting them know you want to get on a phone call, or longer session, letting them know you need at least 30 minutes or more on this. Access to paid interpreters. So this is one that's important, and this is one that kind of dictates why it's a paid service, is that we actually hire pools of paid interpreters to support rarer or higher usage or higher demand languages. So for example, Dari and Pashto aren't necessarily rare, but they're very high demand, which means our match rates aren't 90-something% in the free version, right? Our volunteers cannot fully support those languages to the extent that we find satisfactory at least. And so with the access to paid interpreters, we reach out to not only volunteers, but we also reach out to pools of paid professionals. So you may connect to a paid professional, not only a volunteer. You won't know that, but we know on the back end, and we can see the difference in probability of who's connecting, of people with sponsored, like premium accounts versus people with the free version. For example, I think Dari probability of connecting with a paid version is high 90th percentile, right? Pashto, it's high 80th percentile, if not 90th percentile. So it really depends. Dari and Pashto are just two languages. But if you're working with like Swahili, Kinyarwanda, Kirundi, Burmese, all of these are kind of tricky, even though some of them are rarer and some of them aren't, but it's really hard to recruit sufficient volunteers for the demand. Tigrinya, so, and we also have a hotline service, so it's an internet-free solution, a number you can call, and it reaches out directly to our interpreters, so when they accept, you're on a phone call directly, but it's also via the, not when I say via the app, it's not via the app on your end. On your end, it's a phone call, no internet, but they receive a request on the app. The volunteers, they respond. No record conversations. So this is part of the filters, but I separate it on purpose because it warrants a broader conversation about confidentiality on Tarjimly app. Tarjimly, actually, like literally we have one little password thing to change, and then we will become HIPAA eligible, meaning we follow federal regulations on how to protect personal health or protected health information. So on the back end, from a technical perspective, we do a lot to protect people's data, whether it's limiting access, encrypting data, following who has access to what when and when they accessed it. And then on the front end of the app as well, like the app is anonymous by default, meaning if I'm on the app, it'll just say Sara. It won't say Sara Haj Hassan. It won't have my last name. It'll just have my first name. It won't share my phone number because the calls are internet calls. So we don't share any other information between translator and beneficiary except for the first name. Everything else is self-shared or self-reported. And then on a people side, we also encourage all of our, translators and volunteers and paid interpreters. Well, first we mandate them to agree to our code of conduct, which includes a confidentiality statement, a HIPAA BAA or business associates agreement, as well as a self-disclosure agreement. And then in their app, they do have some optional trainings on safeguarding, HIPAA, and best practices as well to follow. All right, next. So we went over Tarjimly Premium, which is a flat rate of $25 per month per user, irrespective of how much you use it. So you could get connected to a paid interpreter and cost us $300, and you won't pay a penny above $25 a month. Okay. A couple other services we offer. For example, you're like, okay, all of this is great. I'm going to use the free version all the time, but there are some times where I need a professional. I can't risk having a volunteer. I need a professional for this specific thing. For example, those medical situations are one of them. We do have something called Tarjimly Pro, which is a professional interpreter hotline. These are vetted professionals. most of whom have medical interpretation certifications as well. And the nice thing is it's a pay as you use system, and it's $1.35 per minute for any language. It's on demand for tons of languages. There are very few languages where you have to schedule ahead of time. And I can send the list afterwards for anybody who's interested, but $1.35 per minute for any language, including a bunch of indigenous languages. We have other platinum features. I'm not going to go in depth because platinum features are usually really useful for larger organizations where, for example, we can onboard all of their translators onto our platform for their access. We can customize workshops. We can customize the app. We can do impact dashboards, all these cool, really cool things, but might not be as suitable for you all. So I'm going to skip it. If you're interested, you can message me with questions. Next. Right. Talking about how to download the it's pretty easy just to start so people aren't intimidated. What we're going to do is we're going to go to our internet browsers. So next, I want you to go to your internet browser. So whether it's Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer, whatever you have on your phone, I want you to open your internet browser. Okay. And in the search bar, the URL bar, I want you to type, and you can write HTTPS, blah, 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 or you can just write Tarjimly straight up. So tarjimly.org/start. Now,
I'm trying it too.
Yeah, go for it. That should take you to our smart URL page, which what that means is if you have an Android, it takes you to, if you have an Android, it takes you directly to your app store where you can download our app directly. I think I misspelled it when we did it.
And so if anybody missed it, it was tarjimly.org/start. Yeah, there we go. I wasn't too fast. It took me a minute.
Yeah, so it'll take you to something that looks like what's on my screen right now. So your actual app store where you can press the download button. Next, we're going to show you a video that shows you the sign up process as a beneficiary. So we think of our users as twofold. We have our translators, so the people volunteering on our app, and then we have our beneficiaries, who's anybody who's using the app to gain access to interpretation and translation. Grace, can you press play, please? I'm going to narrate this one as well. So this is just going to go over tarjimly.org/start, which we gave you a head start with a second ago. So this gives you just another opportunity to download the app. And next, you're going to click the download button. And open. Now you can, you want to click sign up, and you can, at first, oh yes, very important. Click the top option, which is I need a translator, because if you click the second, you're going to be volunteering with us. Then fill out all of the information required. You can also log in with your Facebook or Apple ID if you prefer. Otherwise, you're going to use your email, create a password, and confirm that password before clicking sign up. You need to allow notifications, and the reason is two things. Allow notifications so we can tell you like, hey, somebody accepted your request or someone sent you a message, and then allowing in-app recording so you can send these voice notes. Next, you have to agree to our code of conduct. So app has to be used by people over 18. We ask you not to take translations off of the app, not to share your personal phone number or information, not to request or accept any services outside of translation or interpretation, and then also to think before sharing personally identifiable information. So as much as possible, only sharing the necessary information. We know in some scenarios it isn't necessary when you're filling out situations, as filling out, what are they called? Like applications. Also just treating everybody with respect. And then the same thing I told you just a second ago about making an informed choice. You know, when's a good idea to use Tarjimly and when you might need a professional service, like one you already have maybe, or like our professional hotline, wherever you find it really. So next, you're going to verify your email. So after you signed up, you should receive a confirm your Tarjimly account email from us. Please scroll down and click confirm email. And then you're ready. You're ready to go and start your first request. You can also update your profile. It's not mandated before you start, but we do request it. Where you can enter your organization, your occupation, etc. We don't share this information with other people. If we do analyze it and de-identify it sometimes and share, for example, for like, oh, like this many people in this organization are using it, but we don't use specific names, we don't give out emails, etc. All right. That's it on that end. Next. All right. We're gonna try it out as we're here. Hopefully some of you have signed up already. So I won't take too long doing this in case people are like, well, I didn't even sign up yet, but we'll give a couple minutes to try this out. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of something you want translated. So let's say you're working with an Afghan family and you want to send them a message being like, hi, how was your day? Or good morning, whatever you want to translate it. Then I want you to select your language pairing. So English to Dari, for example, and then click request translation. Next. And then you want to wait. Now you want to wait at least 2 minutes. It is like watching a pot boil, and we're actually in the midst of internally debating, like, should we put a timer so people realize how long they're actually waiting? Because sometimes you're like, I've been waiting forever, and it's like 32 seconds. So just make a request, wait until someone accepts your request and you get that notification, and then get connected. Next. Chat with your translator, say, hey, can you translate this for me? Get a translation, copy it maybe. Next. And then end your session and rate it. So you end it again by clicking the upper right hand corner and ending the session. If you don't end the session, you can close the app out and it will not end the session. You have to actively end your session. If you close the app out and you forget the app there and the translator doesn't end it and you don't end it, you will stay in that session for up to 12 hours. If both people don't send messages during that time. Now, if every 11 hours, each of you sends each other a message, that session will just stay open indefinitely. So just so you know. Next. All right, so I'm going to give you some instructions if you want to share this with your clients. So if you'd like to share it with your clients, you can go to tarjimly.org/how-it-works. You can also just go to our website and find the How It Works tab and scroll down. And we have one-pagers available in 20 languages. Now we have, here's the thing, we have the Ukrainian one-pager, we just haven't uploaded it to the website yet. So if you want that, please email me. At the end of this, I will give you an email or my email, so you can message me. Now we know that 40-something% of Afghans are illiterate. So next. We do have workshops in Dari and Pashto. So we have them recorded. So here's Dari and Pashto workshops that we can share with you. They're on our YouTube channel. And they walk people through how to download and use the app. And they all don't know I was going to say this today, but we're going to offer a special offering to all of you. If you have want to collaborate together, for example, coordinate together, we can host a live workshop in Dari and Pashto with Q&As afterwards for your newcomer families. So if you want to coordinate as an organization, put it together, we're happy to offer it to you for free.
That's great. And then folks could ask questions, right?
Exactly. So it's not just a recording.
Wonderful. Let's see. Thank you so much for
No
all
problem.
of that, Sarah. And let's see. So we'll take a moment now, speaking of questions, for the folks that are here with us today. We'll begin answering questions submitted during today's presentation. And as a reminder to the folks joining us, you can submit questions through the questions pane in your attendee control panel. So go ahead and send along any questions. Let me see what we have there. Okay. Let's see. Your organization, can all our members use the same Tarjimly account? Interesting question.
The quick answer is no. I'll tell you, there are two reasons why not. Actually, it gets really glitchy if you log in through multiple devices with the same account. The second thing is, especially with our subscription version, the $25 a month, we barely break even on that, and sometimes we don't actually, to be honest, because it costs us money, whether it's technical cost or the cost of the paid interpreters. So when one organization has everybody using one account, it's a really unsustainable system for us, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is an important question. Are sponsors and other volunteers, refugee resettlement agency volunteers, eligible to use the free version?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. If you are somebody who is working with refugees, immigrants, asylum seekers, like I said, survivors of human trafficking, anybody like that who needs displaced people of all sorts, who need language access, if you are working with them to benefit them, then you're allowed to use it. We've even made a few exceptions for for-profit smaller companies that wanted to hire and employ refugees, but didn't have the language capabilities. So they're like, we can't afford to get an interpreter on staff all the time, but we want to support refugees and hire them. So we allow them to use the app as well, because for us, we see that as a way to get these communities employed.
Nice. Yeah. So any volunteer or sponsor working with a refugee can definitely download it and use it. And like you were saying, you could also, even if you didn't really want to download it, if you didn't need it as a volunteer or sponsor, you could also teach the, if the people that you are welcoming wanted to use it, you could teach them how to download it on their phone, or like you said, show them the Dari or Pashto videos or what have you. Let's see, we have several more questions here. Let's see, what is your kind of like screening and onboarding process for the volunteer interpreters?
So the onboarding process, to be honest, the initial onboarding process, there's not much screening or vetting that happens as they're onboarded, other than that we mandate that they read and agree to our code of conduct, which does include a lot of like safeguarding, confidentiality, training in that sense. After that point, the vetting happens kind of after that point in multiple ways. One is any sessions that are rated as I never went over the no record. I talked about confidentiality and I didn't go over no record. I'll tell you about no record in a second. But what I was going to say is, like, any conversations that are rated as problems are manually reviewed by someone on our team. So we do have records of conversations for safeguarding and technical support. So what we do is we go and we see, like, okay, what happened here? Was there an actual issue? And so if you end your session, and like I said before, you have an issue with your interpreter, it can say like, report this person. And if you report the person, we do an investigation. Now, 95+% of people who report people do it by mistake. But when we're investigating and we message them, they're like, oh, I clicked the button by mistake. And we're like, we really need to redesign the screen. But in rare situations where we're like, hey, it's usually the reverse. It's usually not the translators. It's usually the beneficiaries. Like a refugee will sign up and they'll be like, I need money, or like, can you help me with tutoring? Or like, this is not the purpose of the app, right? But in these situations, we investigate. If we think it's a benign thing, then we talk to the person and we message them and we explain, like, that's not how you use the app. If it's not a benign thing, then we ban them from the app. In all cases, if you report someone, they will not be reached out to when you make another request. okay, to you specifically if you're the person who reported them. Another way, so that's kind of like a more extreme case, but in other ways, like when someone makes a request, the request is accepted, and you have the session and you rate at the end, that rating goes back into kind of like a score for the interpreter. And so we take that into consideration when deciding who to reach out to next.
And I guess along that, let's see, someone talking about like screening and onboarding volunteer interpreters, somebody did say that they were interested in possibly volunteering for Dari Persian language. And so they said, so they would download they would do the volunteer version, and then you kind of told us, but do you want to give the quick 2 seconds on like how they would proceed?
Yes. So you go to the same link, it's the same app that you download, but the initial question, I want a translator or I want to translate for people, you would select the second choice. The languages you're saying have a lot of demand, and so you will be very needed. And the nice thing is, you know, you're busy, you don't accept the request. You're not busy, you accept the request. I will say, the more you accept requests, the more likely you'll be requested again in the future, like more often.
Nice. Let's see. Someone wanted to ask, could using Tarjimly, could you create a voice note and then send the voice note in another app such as WhatsApp?
We're working on that feature. It's not released yet, but we are working on it because we know, again, we have populations that are still non-literate, and so we are working on that. It is not released yet.
I gotcha. Let's see. But I guess, sorry, maybe not. But like, I guess if you were a volunteer or a staff member, no, that wouldn't work. You can read it because you don't speak the language. Never mind. I was trying to brainstorm here, but you've obviously put some thought into that. And like you said, you're working on it. Let me see. Oh, someone asked, where in the app do you opt into the essentials version?
You don't opt in. You are naturally an essentials person. Oh, this is I see they actually download the app. That's why they're confused. When you sign up, you get a 2-week free trial of Tarjimly Premium. So I highly recommend using it, trying out the conference calling, trying out all the stuff, because you will get it for free for 2 weeks, after which you'll naturally revert back to essentials. You're not gonna be charged with that. Like, signing up for premium is a very intentional process. It's not something you're gonna accidentally do, so don't worry about it. I do want to go back to no record because I realized I didn't explain what that was. So like I said, we do have records of these conversations that we protect very heavily. And again, we use it for safeguarding, for technical reviews, things like that. However, if there are very sensitive conversations that you don't want us to have a record of, you can select the no record filter prior to the request. And then once you end the session, I can see that, Diana had a conversation with Ahmed for 17 minutes, but I can't read the content, I can't listen to the voice notes, the phone call, etc.
Yeah, I also wanted to mention, just because we're talking about like WhatsApp and filters and everything, that like in the very basic, like if a volunteer or sponsor just wanted to like download the app and just use it like on their speakerphone, talking back and forth with the person that they're welcoming. I mean, like you could basically just use it that way, right? Just download it and use it for a conversation.
Actually, like most, I don't want to say most, but I want to say like 60%, I might be making this up. I think 60% of people sessions, so like a session is the whole time you're connected to a translator, use it for interpretation. So those sort of scenarios.
Yeah, let's see, give it a shot. And somebody just said that their translator told them, we'll see if this is true, that you could record the screen from mobile and then send it in a video. I don't know.
I don't know either. I will say I have no idea about that. That is
let's see. Is there fluency assessment for volunteers?
At this point, there's not. It's self-reported fluency. So people, when you sign up, let's say I speak Arabic, I would select Arabic. I would select whether I read, write, or speak, because there are people in certain languages, Dari and Pashto actually more specifically in Urdu, where people can speak but they can't read or write a lot of times. And so if you're a volunteer, especially like diaspora communities, you can actually select what you can do, read, write, speak, and your fluency level, and then that kind of goes into the algorithm. So that is something we take into consideration when we reach out. Like, we want to reach out to people who are fluent or native in, you know, English and Dari, right? In our first pool that we reach out to.
Great. Let's see. I have another. Here's a question, which is a bit tricky, and maybe Sarah, you and I can just share some thoughts on this. But someone said, with the vetting process being a bit minimal beforehand, if our office requires background checks for most of our volunteers, including volunteer interpreters, do you know if there would be any legal gray areas using the app on sponsorship teams? I have some thoughts, although I have no legal expertise. Did you want to share your thoughts first, Sarah, or do you want me to?
I'll just give my quick 2 cents. I can't answer that question unless you send me a lot more information. I'm happy to talk to whatever organization you work with and to see if we pass their technical check or whatever they require. The Tarjimly Pro hotline, the permanent hotline, they do conduct background check. Like the professional interpreters have undergone background checks. So that is one service you could use if you can't use the free version of the app. Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry, those are my 2 cents.
Just my thoughts off the top of my head would be, you know, like for this organization, you could talk about, you know, like Sarah said, or, you know, just kind of like using your own judgment as far as, well, not using your own judgment, but you know, being smart about when you would use like a professional interpreter versus when you would use the like volunteer interpreters, and just kind of following the same process that you normally would. Although I know that you were saying that, you know, like even your in-person volunteer interpreters, you require background checks. So I understand that that's even like a little bit different, right? I guess my thought would be on this case, and like I said, talk it through with your office or what have you, is, you know, just being really explicit with the person that would be the recipient, you know, the client or the newcomer that you're working with. You know, if you could explain to them like, oh, this is a volunteer in some other state or country, right? So is it okay, you know, if we have them interpret this conversation for you? And so you even could, you know, start out the conversation that way and say, it's okay, you know, you can say no, and we'll, you know, like hang up or what have you, so that you can kind of, you're in that, you know, like tricky situation of using the interpreter to explain that this is a volunteer interpreter. Another thought is that you could, as your organization, you know, like even kind of like explain the situation on a piece of paper, or even just like a brief recording on your phone that you could say like, oh, this is this, you know, app, and it'll connect us with volunteer interpreters. They're not professional. They're in another state or country, but you might not want to share any, you know, like super personal information. I realize that that's not a perfect, you know, like response, but that would be my thought, is if you'd want to consider, you know, like sharing this resource with volunteers and sponsors, but also kind of, you know, like asking them to explain to the person that they're working with, or maybe you could, you know, before the volunteer sponsor used it, saying sometime when you had an interpreter with you, perhaps, you know, just saying like, oh, this is someone, they're a volunteer in another, like I said, like state or country. Is it okay if we use them for this conversation? And, you know, saying like, it's okay if you'd rather not.
Or using it for things, or using it for scenarios where no PII, like personally identifiable information, is exchanged, right? So not using the full name of the client, not giving out their phone number, address. So maybe situations where you all are sharing that sort of sensitive information using a different service with, you know, volunteers that have had undergone background checks, and all other conversations, like you're showing them around the city how to use the bus system. Like, you're not going to be exchanging, you're not filling out their social security number. Maybe that's a situation for Tarjimly, and the other one you can use a professional interpreter if those are the regulations. But again, I'm happy to answer any questions your organization has. Just feel free to email me or email the team's email. So the email is team, TEAM, at Tarjim, TARJIM.ly. I'll see if I can type in the chat. I think I can, right?
I believe you can. If not, I will.
Okay, I'm gonna try. but I think it's only emailing you also, messaging you also. I'll try that.
Say that to me one more time, Sarah. Sorry about that.
Okay. It's team@tarjim.ly. I think I just sent it to
Yeah, I see it.
some people.
Tarjim.ly. Let me see. All right. So yeah,
there we
so
go. Great.
Great. Let me see. And then I think that we hit most of the questions there. Let me see. So thank you again so much, Sarah, for presenting today.
Thanks for having me.
I hope, like I said, I think that this is a very simple solution to people needing on-demand translation and interpretation. You will all, this was one of the questions, you will all receive a follow-up email with a link to today's recording. We would also love to hear from you, so we'd ask that you take a moment right now. Some of you might already have your phones with you to complete a post-session survey. You can use your phone to follow the QR code on the screen, or you can also follow the link in the chat to provide feedback on today's Lunch and Learn and to suggest topics for future sessions. We look forward to hearing from you on those. So on behalf of Refugee Welcome Collective, thank you for joining us, Sarah, and thank you all for joining us, and have a great day. And best wishes with your new interpretation tool there on your phone. Thanks so much, and have a good day, all.
Thank you.